Kendrick Lamar just released this song unexpectedly via Instagram called Watch the Party Die. Now, I don't even know if that's the actual title of the song. That just seems to be its tentative title. I've also seen The Day the Party Died, which would be a play on The Day the Music Died, which was the infamous tragic plane crash that killed Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens. And this Kendrick Lamar release came with like a shot of some Nike Air Force Ones. It was supposedly from like a random eBay listing. That's where they got the graphic, the artwork, if you will. And of course, when they launched this, like I saw it on like Complex, Ambrosia for Heads, you know, any site would call it a Drake diss because it sounds like he's alluding to the battle that we are now in the wake of, right? The battle that they had, the great battle of 2024, in my view, arguably the greatest rap battle of all time. If you go track by track and how drawn out and long, like you could make an EP for each of these artists for their respective diss tracks, right? Epic battle. And because he's alluding to, I want his head cracked before he back home, right after saying using money as a backbone or using money for a backbone or something like that, there are a lot of allusions that make us think that, yeah, he's referring to Drake and this is another diss, you know, and he's basically just kind of stomping on the grave at this point. I mean, I do look at this track, if you listen to the lyrics, as being kind of like a post-mortem, right? Where, you know, the dust is just starting to settle, right? The ashes and dust is just, the smoke is clearing after the battle. And this to me is more of Kendrick Lamar's airing out of his grievances, like kind of the state of the union, the state of the culture, the state of hip hop. And Kendrick Lamar just kind of listing off everything that he looks as being toxic or rotten about the culture, which is much more in line with Kendrick Lamar's like MO, like his musical messaging is more this than it is Not Like Us. Generally, like Not Like Us was kind of like a detour from that, like where he chose violence, as he said in that Like That Metro Boomin and Future track. He's going in on this battle, and boy did he, right? But just days after he's announced as the upcoming Super Bowl halftime show performer, he releases this Watch the Party Die track, which has an instrumental that I love. Like, I like these laid back soul sample types of instrumentals, right? And if you look at the producers of this track, Jack Antonoff is the first name that's mentioned. That, like, I think that I saw Soundwave also mentioned and linked with this song. Soundwave produces a lot of Kendrick stuff. Like, if you look at his albums, you know, album by album, he does a lot of the production, Soundwave. But Jack Antonoff, the now 3-time Grammy award-winning producer of the year, he's now won 3 years in a row. Jack Antonoff, he's produced some of the best work from Lana Del Rey, Taylor Swift. Like, Jack Antonoff is the man. Like, he came from that band Fun. Remember several years ago, We Are Young with Janelle Monáe, and that song was like all over the place. Well, that was one of Jack Antonoff's like first breakouts. And then he had just like a whole bunch of hits that he was producing for others, for St. Vincent, for Sarah Bareilles. She had a huge song, Brave, that Jack Antonoff produced. He also goes by Bleachers when he's releasing his own stuff. He produced big stuff for Lorde, the melodrama. I think that's Lorde's second album. Jack Antonoff produced that. Carly Rae Jepsen. Yeah, he is like a super producer's super producer. And again, 3 years in a row, Grammy Award-winning producer of the year. So he produced this track for Kendrick Lamar. I don't know if he was like on the MP and actually cooking up this beat. I don't know if this song samples a Jack Antonoff produced song and that's why he's listed as the main producer, but I thought that was really interesting because I don't know Kendrick Lamar and Jack Antonoff to have like a deep history working together. So yeah, that was interesting. But again, if you listen to, first of all, like I said, I love the beat. I like that laid back style. It's just that kind of quintessential boom bap soul sample style hip hop. It's just right up my alley. Love that stuff. But also when you listen to the lyrics, yes, you can point different bars and say, damn, that sounds like it was about Drake. It was about Drake and this was about Drake. But when you see that in the headlines, it's just to get the click. It's a little bit clickbait-ish to call this a Drake diss. This isn't a Drake diss. Again, I look at this as being a state of the culture assessment, and that everything that he disliked or dislikes about Drake is more so a symptom of the culture rather than Drake being the main target of this track. And I also like that he shouted out D1. Listen to D1, DEE -1. You might have heard him kind of going back and forth with the, like Joe Budden and others. Like he is a positive rapper. He's got very positive messaging, and he's almost on an anti-toxicity crusade. Like, listen to D1's music. He also Kendrick shouts out Lecrae, who's one of the first major, Christian rappers to break. I mean, I know there was a Toby Mac. Toby Mac was a Christian rapper, but Lecrae was or is a very successful Christian rapper. And I remember he really first started to blow like in the mid 2000s. That's when I started becoming more and more aware of him. He's, performed, freestyles on at least one of those BET Awards ciphers. But yeah, so D1 and Lecrae get a Kendrick Lamar shout out on this Watch the Party Die song. Now, I don't know if this song is a teaser. I don't know if he just, put it out because he was just announced as a Super Bowl halftime show performer, which started to get a lot of controversy. People started saying Lil Wayne should have been the performer because it was in New Orleans. And I just did a video about that Kendrick Lamar announcement and like all of the controversy that surrounds that. So check that video out if you haven't. I provide a lot of context and a lot of commentary on that. But I also don't know if this song, Watch the Party Die, is a teaser for an upcoming Kendrick Lamar album. Like usually, or often at least, when somebody has like a big performance, it's usually accompanied, or at least often accompanied, by an album. So I don't know if his next album is gonna drop sometime late in the football season as we approach the Super Bowl. But yeah, I like this song a lot. And again, I think that this is truer to Kendrick Lamar's like his core nature as an MC, as a recording artist. Like here he's, targeting, toxic hip hop. He's targeting toxic fans who are just kind of like, who have like a bloodlust and want to see more and more, damage and violence and toxicity. He's also targeting the journalists and the pundits. I think that there were some not too veiled, jabs at Academics, DJ Academics, one of the most successful in that hip hop journalist punditry space, whether you like him or not. He's got one of the biggest followings and his stuff is often going viral and he has a lot of people's attention. I think that Kendrick Lamar took shots at him because Academics was always backing Drake in this whole beef. Like I remember when Kendrick Lamar dropped Euphoria, Academics was kind of hating on that. When Kendrick Lamar had that featured verse on Metro and Futures Like That, Academics has something negative to say about that. When Kendrick Lamar had that song where he was talking about smoking on your top five. I think that was on Baby Keem's song. What was that? Family Ties? It wasn't Family Matters, right? Because that was the Drake song. So I think it was Family Ties or something. And I remember Academics saying, who's your top 5 that you smoking on? And I think that Drake even used that Academics vocal moment as a sample on one of Drake's Kendrick Lamar disses. But yeah, Kendrick's taking aim at journalists who he thinks are adding to the toxicity and are kind of stoking the flames for clicks and for money. So yeah, he's just kind of taking a high level, high view of the culture. I mean, he's getting very detailed and very graphic, as he always does, in the actual bars, in the actual lyrics, but he's kind of taking an assessment overall on the state of the culture. This is how I read it, rather than it being truly a Drake diss. I looked at this as being like a post-mortem and just more of an autopsy, not on Drake in particular, although Drake is, he's obviously referencing the battle in a lot of ways here, but it's more so looking at the culture as a whole. But yeah, let me know what you think about this song, Watch the Party Die, in the comments. Did you see this as being a direct Drake diss, or do you see it as being like his assessment on the state of the culture? Again, I think that pitching this as a Drake diss is strictly to drive clicks, strictly to generate attention. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love hip hop like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.